I am going to say the thing that gets me disagreement in the comments every single time. After 65, the balcony is usually the worst money you will spend on a cruise. Not the drink package, not the photos, the balcony. You pay hundreds more, sometimes over $1,000, for a strip of deck you will stand on maybe twice. Meanwhile, the smartest cruisers I know, the ones who have sailed 40, 50, 100 times, book the inside cabin without a second thought and put that money somewhere their body and their budget actually feel it. I know exactly how that sounds, and I am not telling you a balcony is never worth it. There is one specific kind of cruiser over 65 who should book the balcony and pay full price without blinking, and I will tell you exactly who that is near the end. For the rest of us, here is the honest case for the inside cabin, 1 point at a time. Number one, 2 trips instead of one. Start with the money because it is the argument that matters most and it lands fastest. On the same sailing, the same week, the same ship, an inside cabin can run hundreds of dollars less than a balcony, and on the bigger itineraries, the gap climbs into 4 figures a person. That difference is not small change on a fixed income. It is a second cruise. The couples I trust most on this are not cheap, they just would rather sail twice a year than once. Book the inside cabin, take the money you saved, and either it becomes next spring's trip or it upgrades this one, the excursion you would have skipped, the specialty dinner, the flight home you do not have to catch at 6 in the morning. On a week-long Caribbean sailing, the difference alone can cover both your shore excursions with money left over. On a 2-week trip, it can quietly pay the whole airfare. The room is the one line on the invoice where you can save 4 figures and give up almost nothing you will actually miss. Same ship, double the time at sea. That is the whole game. Number two, you barely stand in the room. Your cabin on a cruise is a place to sleep, shower, and change your clothes. That is the whole list. The actual vacation happens up on the top deck, at dinner, in the theater, ashore in the port. The room is a pit stop, and a balcony quietly turns that pit stop into an expensive one you feel obligated to use. I watched a man on my last sailing prove exactly that without meaning to. He had paid a real premium for his balcony, so every single afternoon he felt he had to go sit on it and get his money's worth. He would last about 10 minutes. Then the wind picked up, or the sun swung behind the ship, or the couple 3 doors down started their own happy hour, and back inside he came. He skipped trivia to sit out there. He missed the good band twice. He was paying extra to feel guilty. An inside cabin never once made me feel like I owed it my afternoon. Number three, the darkest room on the ship. Sleep gets lighter as we get older. You wake at the smallest thing, a glow, a sunrise, a sliver of light through a curtain that was never quite built to block it. That is exactly the problem a balcony cabin hands you. Those curtains are not the blackout kind, whatever the brochure photos imply, and the sun comes up over the water at an hour you never agreed to. An inside cabin is a cave. Lights out, and the room goes completely black with no sunrise leaking through a gap in the curtains and nothing creeping in from the hallway. Ask around on any cruise forum, and you will hear the same phrase over and over from the people who switched, some version of best sleep of my life. A couple I sailed with told me they'd book inside now for exactly that reason. They nap hard after a long day in port, and they wake up genuinely rested instead of squinting into a sunrise they did not want. On a trip where you are up early for a shore excursion and out late for the show, being the most well-rested person on the ship is the difference between enjoying day 5 and dragging yourself through it, and it costs you nothing. Here is the part balcony guests cannot buy back. You can always dim a bright cabin, but you can never darken a window that the sun owns at 5 in the morning. The inside cabin hands you control over the one thing an aging body guards most, a full, unbroken night of sleep. Number 4, the 2 in the morning problem. Now that same total darkness comes with one real catch for our age group, and I would rather hand you the fix than pretend it is not there. Get up at 2 in the morning to use the bathroom, the way most of us do, in a pitch black room you have known for a single day is a genuine fall risk. The layout is not in your memory yet, the floor is black, and plenty of ships put a low step up into the bathroom. That is how a wonderful trip turns into an X-ray in a foreign port and a very long story on the flight home. The fix is small and cheap. Pack a couple of battery-powered LED tea lights and leave one glowing low in the bathroom. They cost a few dollars, they last about a week, and they throw just enough light to find your footing without brightening the room and ruining the dark you came for. If you would rather spend $10, a stick-on motion sensor light works even better. It stays off while you sleep, switches itself on the moment you get up, and shuts off again once you are back in bed. Either way, the one downside of the dark cabin is solved before you sail. Number 5, the steadiest cabin. Inside cabins sit in the middle of the ship and usually lower down, and that is the most stable real estate on the whole vessel. The higher and the farther forward you go, the more you feel the sea, which is a fact the people selling high balconies tend to leave out. Think of a Ferris wheel. The seat at the very top swings the most. Your midship inside cabin is down near the axle, where the ride barely moves at all. For anyone who is sensitive to motion or to the dizziness and balance changes that come with a few of the medications we take at this age, that placement is worth more than any view. If you are prone to it, ask your travel agent or the booking line for a cabin as close to the middle of the ship as they have, both front to back and top to bottom. Forward cabins and high cabins feel the sea first, and you do not want to be in either one. Now here is the honest catch, and if you skip it, you will regret it. There are two different kinds of seasickness. One is about the physical rocking, and for that the stable inside cabin does help. The other kind comes from your inner ear feeling movement while your eyes see a still room with no horizon to lock onto, and for that person, a windowless cabin can make it worse instead of better. If your stomach settles the moment you step outside and see the water, you already know which kind you are. Keep that in mind because it points straight to who should book the balcony after all. Number 6, everything is a shorter walk. Midship, where the inside cabins live, puts you in the middle of everything else on the ship too. The main elevators, the dining room, the theater, the guest services desk, all of it a short and flat walk away. When your knees have opinions, by the end of a long day, that easy walk matters far more than a view you would glance at for 5 minutes and forget. I sailed once with a woman who had picked a gorgeous aft cabin way at the back for the wake view out her window. By day 3, she was near tears about the hike to dinner every single night, a long corridor, and then a wait for the one crowded elevator that served her end of the ship. Central and boring beats scenic and far when you are counting steps. And on a port day, when 3,000 people flood off and back onto the ship at once, being close to the main elevators instead of hiking the whole length of a deck is the difference between a calm morning and a miserable one. Some frequent cruisers go a step further and pick an inside cabin near the aft elevators, which tend to be less crowded than the main bank in the center, and on a lot of ships open right onto the buffet. None of it sounds like much, but it is exactly the sort of thing that wears you down or keeps you fresh across a full week. Number 7, pick the right deck. One morning before you book, because a badly placed inside cabin can undo half of what I just told you. When you pick your room, glance at the deck plan and put yourself on a middle deck with other passenger cabins directly above and below you. What you are avoiding is the room right under the pool deck and the room sitting over the late night venues because the noise from both travels straight through the ceiling and floor. Boring, sandwiched, middle of the ship placement is exactly what you want here. The map tells you everything you need to know before you pay a cent, and the balcony crowd never has to think about any of it. Number 8, no afternoon sauna. A balcony cabin bakes in the afternoon sun. That wall of glass catches the light, the room heats up like a car in a parking lot, and the air conditioning spends the whole day fighting a losing battle against it. An inside cabin has no exterior wall doing that to it, so you set the thermostat once and the room simply holds the temperature you asked for. If your joints or your sleep react badly to heat and to sudden swings in temperature, that steadiness is a real daily comfort. Most balcony guests also discover, usually the hard way, that sliding the door open trips a sensor that shuts the cabin air conditioning off so the cold air is not wasted straight outside. Reasonable enough until the one night you want a little sea breeze at bedtime and the room turns stuffy on you instead. You paid extra for that balcony and it fights you on the one night you actually wanted to use it. Number 9, the quiet. An inside cabin is boxed in by other cabins on every side, and that padding does something wonderful for the noise. The pool deck with its scraping loungers, the thumping late-night venues, the engine hum from the stern, they are all somewhere else on the ship instead of pressed up against your bed. Balconies, by contrast, share thin dividers, so you hear the couple next door talking at 11, their balcony slider banging open at 6, and on some ships, the cigarette smoke drifting over from a few cabins down. For a light sleeper, the inside cabin simply hands you the silence. Number 10, you come home having talked to people. There is a quiet bonus to a room with nothing much to look at. You do not hole up in it. You get up and go out to the deck, to the coffee spot where other people are, into the trivia game and the enrichment talk and the conversation by the rail with a stranger. That matters most if you are traveling solo or you have found the house getting a little quieter than it used to be. Some of my favorite people at sea are ones I only met because none of us had a balcony to hide away on all afternoon. Number 11, the solo traveler's break. Cruising on your own now, widowed, divorced, or simply sailing while your spouse stays home with the dog? This one is for you, and it is the point I most wish people knew before they gave up on cruising alone. Cruise fares are built and priced for two people sharing a room. Book a balcony or a suite by yourself, and the line hits you with what they call a single supplement, which can climb close to a second full fare for a person who is not even on the ship. That penalty is far smaller and much easier to swallow on an inside cabin. Better still, some lines built cabins specifically for you. Norwegian has real solo studio cabins, priced for one person with no supplement at all, and they come with a private lounge just for solo travelers where you can get your morning coffee and meet the other people who are sailing alone. For a widow who still loves to cruise but dreads the thought of eating every single dinner by herself, that lounge is a real answer to a real problem. And if the studio cabins are sold out or your line does not offer them, ask about solo pricing on a regular inside cabin. A few lines have started charging single travelers below that old double fare penalty, so it is always worth asking the question before you decide cruising alone is off the table. It is the smart way to keep sailing on one income instead of sitting home because the math felt impossible. Number 12, you climb the ladder faster. Cruise line loyalty programs are one of the great open secrets of this whole business, and here is how they work on most of the major lines. Your status, the tier that eventually earns you priority boarding, free laundry, drink coupons, a little party with the officers, is built on the number of nights you spend at sea, not on how much you paid for the cabin. A night in an inside cabin counts exactly the same toward your status as a night in the fanciest balcony suite on the ship. So the person booking inside and sailing twice as often climbs that ladder about 2 times faster than the person who blew the whole budget on one balcony trip. Within a few years, you are the one boarding early and collecting the perks, standing in the priority line next to someone who paid thousands more per cruise and holds the very same colored card you do. It varies a little from line to line, so check how your favorite one counts it before you count on it. But the principle holds nearly everywhere, and I have watched people reach the top tiers years ahead of friends who spent double purely because they sailed more often in cheaper rooms. And those perks compound on you. Once you are a few tiers up, you are collecting free specialty dinners, drink coupons, and priority everything on every single sailing, which quietly makes each future inside cabin an even better deal than the last one was. Number 13, bid for the upgrade. I will be honest about a contradiction here because a sharp viewer would catch it anyway. There is a way to book the inside cabin and still end up standing on a balcony, and no, it does not secretly prove the balcony was better all along. It proves you can shop like someone who understands how cruise pricing really works. 2 simple moves do it. First, most major lines now run a bidding program. Royal Caribbean calls theirs Royal Up, and the others each have their own version. After you book your inside cabin, they invite you to name a price you would pay to move up, and if a balcony is sitting unsold as the date nears, you might land it for a fraction of the listed fare. If your bid loses, you pay nothing extra and keep the comfortable room you already have. Second, book what they call a guarantee cabin. You choose the inside category, take the lower price, and let the line assign your exact room number later. Because inside guests are first in line when the line needs to shuffle people to fill gaps, a free bump to a better cabin lands in some of their laps for nothing at all. Either way, you start from the sensible number and let any upgrade come find you instead of paying top dollar up front and praying you use it. 2 small tips if you play the bidding game. Bid a little above the stated minimum rather than right at it because the rock bottom bids get passed over first. And if they let you bid on more than one category, do it since you only ever pay for the one that actually comes through. Number 14, the price keeps dropping. Those windowless rooms are the hardest ones for the cruise line to sell, which is exactly why they can turn into a real bargain if your schedule is flexible. And after 65, a lot of us finally have the flexibility we spent 40 years wishing for. As the sale date gets close and the inside cabins are still sitting empty on the manifest, the price on them tends to slide steadily downward. So the retiree who is not chained to a school calendar can watch a premium itinerary, the Alaska sailing, the Mediterranean run, the New England fall foliage cruise, and grab the inside cabin at a fraction of what the balcony guests locked themselves into months earlier. Same ship, same ports, same everything that actually shapes your day at close-out pricing, sitting at the same dinner table as people who paid twice your fare for the identical week. I know couples who plan half their year exactly this way, bags half packed in the hall closet, watching one sailing they have had their eye on and waiting for the inside fare to blink. It only works if you can move on short notice, but if you can, it is quietly the best deal at sea. Number 15, walking off without the weight. The last morning of any cruise separates the people who packed light from everyone else, and the inside cabin puts you in the good group. Because the room is smaller, you naturally pack less, and packing less means you can do what they call self-assist departure. You carry your own bags off the ship first thing in the morning instead of setting them out in the hall the night before and waiting on board for your colored luggage tag to finally be called. That is a bigger deal than it sounds when you have a flight to catch, or you simply cannot stand sitting in a crowded lounge for 2 hours waiting for a number. You walk off on your own schedule, you keep your own bags in your own hands the entire time, and you keep that feeling of being independent and in control that none of us like giving up. For anyone who values doing things at their own pace, the light packing inside cabin sets up a calmer final morning, and that last stretch is the part people tend to remember on the way home. Number 16, the sailing where interior wins the view. This next one sounds completely backward until you have lived through it. On the far north sailings, Alaska in high summer, Norway and the fjords, anywhere up near the midnight sun, the sun barely sets at all. It is broad daylight at 11 at night and still bright at 3 in the morning. And those balcony curtains that already do not block much on a normal cruise do not stand a chance against 20 hours of it. I heard from a traveler who spent very good money on a balcony for exactly one of these trips and then lay awake 3 nights straight, staring at a bright room, wishing for the darkness he had left at home. On that same sailing, the inside cabin guest sleeps as if it were the middle of the night, because inside that windowless cave it is. There is an old joke on those cruises that the balcony guests would happily sublet the inside cabins just to get a few hours of real sleep. When the whole world outside your window refuses to get dark, the windowless room is the one that lets you rest. So if a bucket list trip to the top of the world is on your calendar, do not assume the balcony is the splurge that makes it. On that particular sailing, the dark little inside cabin might be the smartest room on the ship. Number 17, a view without the balcony price. If it is really the view you are after and not the fresh air, you have a middle path that most people never look into. Some of Royal Caribbean's newer ships put what they call a virtual balcony in select inside cabins. It is a screen that runs nearly floor to ceiling, showing a live, real-time view of the ocean and the ports right outside the ship. It is not the real thing, and nobody is claiming it is, but it gives you the daylight and the sense of where you are in the world at inside cabin prices. And if you insist on real outside air but still want to be sensible about it, look into what Carnival calls a cove balcony. It sits low and midship, much closer to the water, more sheltered from the wind, and steadier than the high balconies up top that swing with every swell. It usually costs less than the fancy ones on the upper decks, too. You do not have to leap straight from a cheap inside cabin to the priciest balcony on the ship. There is a whole sensible middle in between that most people never stop to shop. Number 18, 2 rooms beat 1 suite. Traveling with the grandchildren or with the adult kids and their whole crew, the instinct is to book one big suite so everybody is together under one roof. Do the arithmetic first, because 2 connecting inside cabins very often cost less than that one suite and serve you far, far better. The reason comes down to bathrooms. One suite has a single bathroom for the entire group to share and fight over. Two inside cabins give you two bathrooms, two closets, twice the outlets for everyone's chargers, and a door you can actually shut between the grandkids' happy chaos and your own quiet. Nobody is brushing their teeth over an open suitcase while three other people wait in the hall. You still connect the two rooms and travel as one group, but you keep your own space and your own bathroom, which after a certain age is close to essential. For a multi-generational trip, two insides is the setup that keeps everybody still speaking to each other by the last night. It is easier on tired legs too, because the grandkids can dash back to their own room for the forgotten thing while you stay put in yours. Number 19, when you should book the balcony anyway. I promised you honesty at the start, so here it is. No hedging. There is a cruiser over 65 who should book the balcony, pay the full price, and never once second guess it. See if this is you. Book the balcony if you have a respiratory condition, asthma, a lung issue, anything where fresh air and simply being able to open a door genuinely matters to your breathing and your peace of mind. The same goes if that visually driven seasickness we talked about earlier is the kind that is yours, where seeing the horizon is the only thing on earth that settles your stomach. A windowless room that leaves you honestly claustrophobic is another good reason all on its own, not the mild restlessness anyone might feel, but the kind of anxious that would color your whole week. And if you need natural daylight to wake up and feel like yourself, do not force your body into a dark box for 7 days just to save a few dollars, because that trade is not worth making. There is also the cruise where the view is the entire point. On a long stretch of sea days, on Alaska for the glaciers, the Norwegian fjords, the Panama Canal, a slow transatlantic crossing, you will truly be in that cabin looking out at something worth seeing, and the balcony earns every single dollar. One more thing that is quietly true. If the thing you dread most is being confined during some health scare, a balcony with fresh air and daylight is real comfort, and there is no shame at all in paying for that peace of mind. A woman I sailed with came down with a bug mid-cruise and spent a day and a half shut in her cabin. She had booked a balcony almost by accident, and she told me later it was the only thing that kept those 2 days from feeling like a punishment. She could step out into the air, watch the sea slide by, and remember she was still on a vacation. If being cooped up is your deepest worry, that is a real and honest reason to spend the money. If one of those is you, book the balcony with my full blessing and enjoy every minute out there. But if you just like the idea of a balcony, the pretty picture of yourself with morning coffee and a sunset, be honest with yourself about how many afternoons you will really spend in that chair. For most of us, the true answer is about 2, and 2 afternoons is a very expensive view. So that is the whole case laid out straight for you. The inside cabin is not the room you settle for after 65. For most of us, it is the smart one, the room that sleeps better, walks shorter, rocks less, stays quieter, and pays for the next trip. And the folks who truly need the balcony now know exactly who they are and why. Now I know this one splits the room, so settle it for me below. Are you an inside cabin loyalist through and through, or is the balcony the one thing you will never give up no matter what I say? And if you switched one way or the other, I want to hear the trip that changed your mind. I read every comment, and I always end up learning something from the folks who have sailed a good deal more than I have.